Well, welcome back, and we're all set to start our second session for today, where we're discussing green buildings and smart for sustainability. So the panel out here will shed light on UAE's move towards renewable energy and how PropTech can help property managers and tenants alike to understand the sustainability of their buildings. So before we get into the discussion, I would like to quickly introduce the panel to you. We have here with us Mr. Sham Yadav, the MD of Clenergize. Also joining us in this session is Mr. Tolga Kandon, the Head of Business Development and Retrofit from Sense Green. And we also have with us Mr. Pradeep Kumar Singh from the Business Development and the Acting Director of Etihad ESCO. And the session is moderated by Mr. Adil El Mavla, the MD of PropTech Community. But I think we have a slight change. We also have Mr. Salim with us. So Mr. Pradeep, if you would like to introduce Mr. Salim to us.
Thank you, Megha. Thank you very much. First of all, my apology, I won't be able to continue this particular session. Okay. On my behalf, my colleague Salim will be joining. Salim is leading our measurement and verification department. That department plays a very critical role in energy efficiency and retrofitting project. So he's with Etihad for last 4 to 5 years, and he's having a rich experience in the retrofitting policy making related to the sustainability and the retrofit. Prior joining to Etihad, he was with DNVGL. He was based in Singapore, and prior to that, he was in India with ICA. So he's having a rich background for the sustainability and the retrofit, and I hope he will add a great value to this particular panel discussion. And in turn, he will get something from you guys also. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Salim, Mr. Pradeep, and welcome, Mr. Salim, to the panel. So viewers, before we start off with, do note that the Q&A will be held in the last 10 minutes of the discussion. So we do have a networking lounge where you can take the discussion out there post-session. However, I do encourage you to post in all your questions during the course of the discussion as well. So over to you, Mr. Adil.
Thank you, Megha, and welcome to all my guests. And I hope we add value today and knowledge and ideas to our attendees. I kickstart questions. I have a list of a couple of points I would like to ask you for your feedback and insights. So the first question is basically if you can tell us about the current trends in green technology for new and post-built environment. I'm not gonna allocate anyone or ask anyone to respond, so please feel free to share your knowledge based on what you feel comfortable with the subject point.
Well, I can initiate, I guess. This is Tolga. Definitely, IoT is the keyword, supported and enhanced with the artificial intelligence. Because in order to make any building greener and smarter, we need to sense different parameters from energy to occupancy to air and water, everything, and then combine all of these information in a brain. And it is going to be a huge data for any person or any team to handle. And that's where the AI comes in, where the AI is going to make instant allocations, deployments, so that we can have more efficient and healthy buildings. So IoT and AI is the new trend.
Yeah, definitely. And then further to add on that, like AI is definitely one of the main tools where a lot of projects are looking into deeper aspects. And we are also seeing trends where even renewable energy integration is playing a key role. Like even when you talk about our retrofit projects here, I mean, those are small scale renewable projects, but as compared to a particular building's consumption, it plays a role in offsetting the demand. And it also helps in designing the ECU measures, because like we can reduce the demand through the energy conservation measures, and then you can see how much potential of solar generation is there. So, and that it basically can tend to a way where we can start talking about net zero, where through savings and also measures, we can basically see how improvements can be further done to reduce carbon footprint and emissions.
I think, yeah, to pick up from what Tolga and Salim have said, to be honest, the brain concept of Tolga is very, very clear. I mean, you need to measure the things before you start reducing them. And what's happening now is post data collection, sustainable initiatives such as solar are really helping drive down the carbon footprint and at the same time ensure significant amount of cost savings. So it takes out a huge chunk of your target depending on the nature of the building. So there are certain commercial industrial buildings wherein you can even reach 80 to 90% of your bill savings with solar. And there are certain probably high towers, residential towers, probably where you wouldn't even reach 3 to 5%. But because the cost has been driven down in that specific technology, and that is one of our expertise areas, so I can speak in that particular domain and tell you that the driving force has been the decline in cost and thereby the impact where you see the people absorbing it more and more in the market.
Thank you, guys. Actually, I would like to have a follow-up question in this regard. How do you think these technologies like IoT, AI, etc., can help or can make sustainable buildings self-diagnose, self-correct, and self-heal? How do we use these technologies to basically automate the sustainability and performance of the building?
Adil, that's a long question, but I'll try to give you a couple of examples because with these analogies you can have, and not for you, but for the audience especially to understand. The first IoT AI was the automatic light switch off, right? Occupancy detector. So if there is nobody there in the room, why waste lighting energy to light up an empty room? So it was the initial IoT device. And then our lives got introduced with the second one, the tap. Once your hand is there, the water started. These are nice, but they are in a very small scale. And now we are thinking of a big building that is able to put a data into everything. How many people are coming at what time and they are going through which experience, how we can make the car parks even also smarter. So you can take these two examples and apply it to everything. Even in the future, I am imagining that with the smart watches, it is going to measure your bodily outputs, and then the air conditioning devices will adjust their direction and rating accordingly to optimize the comfort versus the HVAC energy consumption. So it's a huge thing. I fear that AI is going to know more about us than our families in the near future. Hopefully bad things happen and robots that don't take over the world. But we need to drive towards that into spaceship-like buildings in the future to save this planet.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Salim?
Yeah, because like it has been a step-by-step approach, as Tolga like started with the right point. Like we started with the basic things like the light and the water, and then slowly it is expanding. Like if you see even typically now, like even like certain system components, when you talk about HVAC and all, already tools are available in the market where the system can self-diagnose, self-correct themselves. It basically is a holistic view which needs to be adopted on a bigger scale, where these are part of at the design making stage itself. So we make, so whatever new buildings are designed, we make sure those are considered right from the design stage. And what existing buildings we have, so those should be incorporated in a phase-wise manner. So definitely it adds a benefit in terms of not only energy, but like better occupant comfort, and also helps in a long way in terms of achieving our emission targets and energy saving and DSM programs. So basically how we need to take it in a holistic manner, that is very important, where all this integration and all this adoption is done by the market at a bigger scale.
Great insight. Shyam, do you agree? Do you have anything else to add?
I think I'm completely in agreement. There's no two doubts or two thoughts about it. The simple thing is there is no limit to what you can sense and actuate. And it frankly depends on what sort of targets the building owners or the area developers impose and what sort of experience you want to guide people through. So I think experience is what is leading the deployment. When somebody sees a very high quality, high efficient building, it starts setting the trend, and their sensors and their actuators start making their foray into other buildings. So people have to deploy these, show the practical usage of it, show the savings of it on the commercial standpoint, and then you'll see their deployment. It is a lead an example sort of a game in this.
Got it. Got it. Actually, it's a very it's a bit of a philosophical question, but I would like your input about it. Do you think that the availability of technology is leading to sustainable strategies, or is it the other way around? Who's in the driver's seat?
Well, I will answer it very simply, Adil. Neither one. The driving force is not the technology or not the strategy. The driving force is ROI, the return on investment. And the technologies are being developed.
Yeah, I'm giving you the thumbs up, by the way.
Yeah. The technologies are being developed towards ROI, and also the strategies are driven towards ROI. And if we fantasize in other words, no business, no technology can scale up. Once these ROIs are intersected from a strategy and technology perspective, then it is converted into reality and it is adopted into the building.
Fully agree. Fully agree. From what we've noticed, honestly, I'll give you a very straightforward example. 5 years back when we started the consulting firm in Dubai, carbon was the first slide in our pitch to customers. Please, you save your carbon and you will have a clean breathing air. Please invest in solar, so and so, 6 years payback. That slide ended up going towards the last of our deck. The first slide became payback, IRR, NPV, rate of return. And we started getting projects when we speak money. So 1000% in agreement, ROI is leading the game. Now, you also have to understand there are a lot of cutting edge technologies that don't make it in the forefront simply because their payback is not that good. But as and when these commercial advancements keep happening, the cost keeps dropping, ROI keeps improving, that really pushes the usage of these. So yeah, that's our viewpoint on this.
I mean, yeah, very true, because there has to be a kind of a cohesion between technology adoption and the market and the way it's adopted in the market. Basically, initially when things come, like a lot of technical options are indeed feasible, but in terms of ROI is one of the main factors. So that is how things work in practical sense. I mean, if the technology is good, it gives great results and it gives a good ROI. Definitely, there is the need for the market. So it's like kind of a driven approach by everything, but ROI in finance plays the main factor, which is indeed driving the market towards adopting more sustainable practices and this kind of technology adoption.
That's an extremely valid point. And yes, I agree. It needs to be commercially viable, but also at the same time, we've seen sustainable solutions that being overall more expensive, and with time, with more optimization and efficiency, the cost is becoming more and more reasonable and affordable. My question is, do you think it will be cheaper at some point, and when do you expect it? In the next decade, in the next few years? Solar panels, for instance, even if on a longer time period, the ROI might make sense, but on a like shorter span decision making, commercial decision making, people don't want to shift to solars, especially for like residential buildings, not for commercial. So what's your intake about this? When do you think we will see this turning point?
Adil, from a procurement officer's perspective, the sustainable technologies are never going to be cheaper because it has certain technology and innovation R&D behind it. But from an owner's perspective, the total cost of a sustainable solution is always cheaper than any traditional method. That's the philosophy behind it. But unfortunately, in the construction environment where the client awards a project to the lowest bidding contractor, right? from a capex perspective, that is the critical point. The moment that the client awards a project to the lowest bidding contractor from a 10-year life cycle, 15-year life cycle perspective, then the things will change. That's why now the PPP model is quite increasing speed in many places, where you are saying, run this project for 15 years and then transfer me the ownership. Then the contractors are looking for more sustainable projects. And when talking about green technology becoming cheaper, it is becoming cheaper every day. The solar 10 years ago was like a hot iron. You couldn't touch. The ROI was like 8 years, 10 years. And now today it is 4 years to 6 years. And same thing for IoT sensors. You need to spend $1 million dirham to convert a building into a smarter one. And now today, what we are offering, it is just 5,000, 10,000 dirhams and a month. Then you have all your IoT HVAC as the IoT. So it is getting cheaper, and it will get cheaper day by day.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, because the main issue, as Tolga correctly initiated, is a capex issue, which is a kind of a showstopper when it comes to as a barrier for adoption of these technologies. But yeah, but when the market adopts more of these kind of options, the price is indeed slated to go down. But the only issue is how you package the entire solution. So that is critical in terms of approach of property developers, how they perceive a new project. So that is the main approach. So that mindset change is definitely required. And obviously with higher adoption, the technology to a certain local players. So all these benefits are there. But the way how the market perceives this solution is the mindset indeed needs to change. So that is a major way in terms of how this adoption can accelerate further.
Adil, from our view, to be honest on this point, there wouldn't be a better time. In fact, there is never a better time. It is now. And I'll tell you why. When you have a payback on a solar project, probably in Dubai, now with the capex prices going really low within 3 to 4 years or 5 years at the max, the rate of returns that you're looking are in excess of 15 to 20%. You don't get these sort of rate of returns in your standard commercial grade investments in the market. So it's a no-brainer for people to go with it. Yes, you're right, in the residential department, in that segment, basically, the payback is slightly higher. But too often have we been in meetings where literally the payback and the IRR and the commercial KPIs have been the only source of discussion. Very little attribute is paid to the environmental benefit of solar. Nobody wants to discuss it. Nobody wants to hear of it because every CFO has a target to meet. But until it is driven from the government or some sort of a mandate that it is required, these things start becoming more and more prevalent. And Dubai did that. They put set of targets to achieve in this particular segment. So it has to come from both sides, the interest and the commercial KPIs, and also from the top, because people don't by themselves get the push to start considering green initiatives until it is really drilled down or until all the neighbors have it. So we're in a sweet spot right now in Dubai where a significant amount of projects have been deployed and the government has a policy, which is why you'll see Dubai is uniquely thriving in this particular setup in the Middle East with the largest deployment of solar there is, and that's our view on the matter.
I'm going to tap into these policies shortly. But I agree, it's a great time now to adopt sustainable solutions. But I also believe that there are new add-ons and tools that are allowing these solutions to be more affordable and more efficient. I've seen a robot, for example, that can clean the solar panels to optimize efficiency by 30 to 40%. I've seen a technology in India that combines water heating with also solar energy, so it can offer or like increase the value offering to its to the residents or to the homeowners by offering water and by offering electricity. So that's what I meant specifically by when the value offering will be even bigger the cost will be lower compared to the cost benefit analysis to what we have today. But I guess we all agree that maybe it's a matter of just a few years, and innovation will keep always growing and bringing something new and the spillover effect to the future. But I'm glad you mentioned Dubai, Shiam, because I want to also tap into the government's role in supporting sustainability, and what role do you think they have, one, and two, what are the global economic, social, and environmental events that are accelerating this green adoption?
You know, Dubai has a very strong policy. I think Salim would agree with me as well. And they played it smart. They played it at the right time, because you suddenly don't launch a policy and the next year the solar market picks up. It takes a couple of years. They did it very well within 2014, 15, they drafted it. And now 5 years later, you see one of the largest deployments in the region. The region which has the most amount of sunlight, frankly, didn't have solar. Europe had it, US had it, India had it. The Middle East lacked it. They stepped up, they put the policy, people are benefiting from it. And there's a huge amount of deployment within this emirate, considering the population and the size of it. The density is pretty good for solar, and it is growing. I think other countries need to take inspiration from that, and they've already done that. Their policies are also almost coming out or are out. But the sort of foresight that they had, frankly, did not require global events to make it happen. I'm not trying to confuse you, just to tell you, global events, when they happen, they put pressure which is imminent, and people have to react and act fast. These sort of, like the Paris Climate Accord or Davos, etc. I think when the UAE participates in these, they are aware with a sort of foresight that the level of discussions that will change in the next coming years or the next coming decades, they need to adapt to those in terms of policy now, not when everybody else has already done it. So that sort of foresight existed here, and they took charge early on. We're fortunate to be here, tapping into that sort of mindset.
I mean, if you take the case of Dubai, for example, like the DSM strategies were defined quite some time back, maybe in early 2012 or 2013, when they developed the initial programs pertaining to building retrofit, the Shams Dubai market, and even tapping into regulation about district cooling and EVs and all. So that vision was there quite a long time back. And as Etihad Esco explained, we are managing this building retrofit program. So because of the push from the government, it is kind of an incentive in terms of reaching out to customers and trying to convince them to go forward with energy efficiency and solar deployment solutions. And yes, I mean, the global events do have an impact, but unless you have a policy which is customized and which is well suited to your requirement, I mean, that is a major driver in terms of to achieve the market adoption rates. And because these things were defined quite early back, and now those benefits are starting showing up. If you talk about the Shams Dubai program or even the building retrofit program, which Dubai is going on. So indeed, that vision is needs to be very clear, and then it needs to be translated into working level activities at the ground level. Yeah.
Well, I agree with my colleagues. Dubai is the leader in the Middle East, but the world is bigger than Middle East. So there is a huge road to pursue when it comes to pursuing the path to the net zero carbon cities. And that's definitely the target for every single country in the world, net zero country. When Dubai can reach that, unfortunately, UAE is very much challenged because we need to put buildings made of crystal inside the epicenter of the desert, and then we need to spend tremendous amounts of energy to keep it cool, like an icebox inside an oven. So that's a challenge, but I can 100% confidently say that UAE and especially Dubai, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, they are the leaders in Middle East. But there is still many things to do.
I agree. I like how you positioned that the Middle East is not the whole world. However, it seems like it is the whole world these days. I want to ask also since we're all proud and aware of the efforts Dubai is putting, where do you think the missing opportunities are? Where do you think Dubai can do better? Are there any sectors it can tap into to empower sustainability even more?
I think from our experience, how we see it, like maybe the industrial sector, like as of now, our targets is mostly on commercial buildings, and the adoption rates has been, I mean, it has been good, but yes, the outreach is still needs a bigger outreach is still required to bring more commercial buildings on board, like because even though we offer zero capex, zero opex solutions upfront to the client, and the model is all the costs are recovered through the savings, but we still see there's a gap in terms of adoption, where through maybe to better customer outreach and some more policies, where in terms we're talking about mandatory energy performance standards, or maybe like a building rating scheme, or maybe like a dynamic like dashboard data where you can benchmark building performance, and then you know in real time which buildings are good performers, which are bad performers, and where you need to, which buildings needs to be targeted in terms of improving the efficiency, and also which will help in terms of improving the DSM program. So I think this adoption and more visibility, and having some sort of maybe mandatory programs which are there for some sectors, like for new building there are some regulations, but basically for existing buildings some kind of regulation and maybe an incentive or a rating scheme which will maybe give more like a boost to this adoption of sustainable measures and adoption of energy efficiency technologies.
I agree with Salim. The biggest thing initiator is the rating scheme. Once the rating scheme is there, because you cannot improve what you don't measure. It all starts with measurement, and once the benchmark scheme is deployed into every single building, every shopping mall, either based on a square feet basis or based on occupancy basis, based on certain building criteria, that is the single core initiator towards energy efficiency. And the second biggest missing thing is I have established a company for that thing. The huge gap in the market, the elephant in the room that nobody is seeing. We are spending tremendous amounts of money into building HVAC equipment into our buildings, and then another couple of $1 million into operating them. But unfortunately, we don't see the air. We don't map the air, only based on reactive thermostats that is kicking in, kicking out. But there is no IoT and AI platform to map the air and its all other properties: humidity, carbon dioxide, VOCs, pressure, particulate matter. So this is the huge gap. Nobody is doing this properly, maybe 1%, 0.5%. And there are good schemes into measuring the efficiency of the HVAC systems, but there is a huge gap on the air side. So that is the second big.
That's why we have you, Tolga. That's why you created a sunscreen, right? Shyam, any other ideas you'd like to share?
Look, the policy. Look, we're in a place where all the surrounding areas barely have any policy, and the other countries are yet to start with, where these guys have already reached pretty far. So from a policy standpoint, they're quite efficient. When we put in approvals, we get them back very fast. And now the money makes sense and the ROI is pretty good. The private sector just needs to wake up, see what's happening, check what the neighbors are doing, and adopt it. And frankly speaking, again, no cribbing on this front. The volume of projects that are coming in now, especially post-COVID, I mean, a small firm like ours has already reached excess of 220 megawatts in a region where barely any solar has been deployed. So we are already at a very good pace, and going at this pace, a significant amount of this region would already have deployment. So policy-wise, very comfortable. If there are any changes to be made, maybe they're on a level where I think they're already anticipating these and they'll slowly roll them out. So we're okay with the policy so far.
We've been talking a lot about ROI, and it makes me wonder, what are the 3 most lucrative green tech sectors for investors? I'm not talking about the value for the planet or the life of residents. I'm talking purely from an investment point of view. What are the three main sectors you think that are the most profitable for these investors?
Investors as building owners or investors as investing into tech companies?
Tech companies specifically.
Well, I think we are one of the best example of that. Not that only for us, but IoT and AI is the untapped market. We are invested by Abu Dhabi government as well, by the Hub 71 program to pioneer this IoT transformation. We are also invested by the tech stars from US Colorado. The technology, not the metal chunky things, but the technology into making anything more efficient. It can be BMS, analytics, because that is the core thing. Definitely solar is improving day by day. But I am very much sincere, not that I am in this seat right now, but I am very much sincere in the IoT and AI being the next big thing for the next 15, 20 years easily.
I think if we talk about our experience, like the way we see it, like if you talk about the basic retrofit, so see, lighting retrofit is still one area where the paybacks are very short, and still there's a lot of, a lot of potential still left in the market in terms of replacing out the old lights, and those paybacks are maybe less than a year. So those are like kind of easy wins when you talk about like short-term paybacks. And going forward, I think yes, IoT, BMS integration, and like AI system where you are integrating all your performance, and the target should be net zero. I mean, that should be the vision where how we make sure like the new buildings have all this incorporated in the design stage itself, and how we make sure the existing ones approach closer to this requirement of where we are close to net zero. So in that, solar definitely will be there, and AI, BMS integration will be there, and also this water saving technology where we're talking about recycling of grey water. And so this is still an area where a lot still needs to be done in terms of widespread adoption in the local perspective. So yeah, these are a few areas where I think we should lead the market going forward.
I second that view. I probably can speak only on the industry that I'm aware of. Solar has a significant amount of capital investment required, but then again, the returns are very stable because the returns are dependent on the sun. You can bank on that, you can count on that. So if there's a large volume investment, solar actually plays a very strategic and a key role in that a significant amount of money can be deployed with very stable returns, looking at a long-term outcome, pegged on a lease model. You're talking 15, 20 years of that sort of return. You're not talking about small volumes of money. You're talking probably $500,000 per megawatt. And people end up doing 50, 60 megawatts in their portfolio. That's a significant amount of money. So it's investment grade. Two new things that even we forayed into is absorption chilling, wherein we're trying to improve the efficiency of the chiller using solar thermal technology or any heat that can be derived from industrial units. And also wastewater recovery. There are certain companies here, like Clearwater Solutions, etc. They've come up with very, very good technologies wherein 90 to 95% of the water that can be recovered, probably the price of water is low now, going ahead 10, 15 years. And I'm not just talking Dubai, in the region where there's water shortage. You start doing things like this with a 45, 50,000 dirham apparatus, which pays you back in 4 or 5 years. You see the value of that company going ahead is massive. So yeah, these are the three things that we thought from our side.
Great insights, gentlemen. Can you share with us your personal experience in this regard? Like, was it hard for you to raise capital? Were people excited simply because it's a new trend, or it took you like you found resistance in terms of raising capital? Like fintech usually had the easiest way for them to basically get the attention of their investors. Did you have an easy way, or was it very challenging
fintech is the easiest. If you come up and say that I have a mobile app and it is fintech, people start pouring money into you as a startup. But I also know that fintech is very short-sighted. Now the global governments are initiating impact funds. So unless your solution is not doing something for the planet and for the humanity to survive, it is going to become more difficult for fintechs or others to get money. Raising capital, it's not impossible, but it's not easy as well, especially from geography to geography. If you are living in a Silicon Valley, it's much easier. You can get the investment just over chatting over a coffee, but investment is there, capital is there. You need to be persistent. It's not that I got the idea, come on, give me $5 million, $10 million. That's never going to happen. You need to be persistent. You need to establish a team. Don't expect that you only have this idea and they will inject money into your initiative. You need to establish this team, approach government bodies for small grants to enable your idea into reality. We are now currently having our third round of investment, and we are, because initially we secured some couple of $100,000 that enabled us to do the R&D and then product development, and then second round to establish new offices. And now we are in the third round talking to angel investors, tech entrepreneurs, and again, venture capital funds. So the money is there, but it's not easy. You need to be really persistent, professional, hardworking, like working like 18 hours a day at a minimum, and then the capital is there.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, raising capital is always is a challenge. Like if we talk about our case study, like about like how what we do, in our case, the funding, even though the funding comes from the government, but still is a challenge in terms of convincing the investors like your money is going to come back, because like typically our this energy performance contracts have a payback of 4 to 7 or 8 years. So basically convincing them in terms of those solutions will actually give those benefits. So that requires persistence, and that requires a lot of effort and hard work. And if you see, like in our case, like this, we started with 3 or 4 people in 2013, and now the portfolio has grown. Like we have retrofitted most about 8,000 buildings. So it was a learning curve, and it was like basically convincing the investors whether this technology adoption will give those benefits, and then convincing them of those benefits. So that is a major challenge still, if you talk about how the savings are going to be verified. So that is a key role which investors, they need to understand in terms of how this project is going to give the benefit, and what measures and metrics you are going to use to convince the investors, yes, this benefit has actually been achieved given the dynamics of a building operation. So it is indeed a challenge, and it is still a challenge, but it has given good results. But yes, it will continue to remain a challenge in terms of convincing like how those benefits are getting actually realized in terms of what investment has been made.
To give you our viewpoint on this, Adil, we started out, we bootstrapped throughout our position right now. Didn't seek investment, didn't go for it. In the beginning, I resigned from my firm. Previously, it was an ABB, and put in my savings and then started this firm, got a bunch of partners on board. And then we realized that as the solar market is picking up, you ride that wave correctly with the right sort of payment plans for your own company, and the revenue will start coming in without the need to convince or aim for exponential growth. If you have that expectation very clear that you'll grow along with the market, and you don't start aiming at very insane sort of growth numbers when the policy itself doesn't exist in other places, then you'll have your expectations also right, and then your revenue will feed your firm also correctly. So we kept our head down, earned from what we did, didn't seek investment. We've reached a position now where we have significantly one of the largest number of projects under management, and I have projects running in Saudi, in Oman, in Turkey, in Bahrain, in Iraq, in Egypt. We will not go there and start opening offices and putting 5, 10 people inside on investment, having no idea about the policy over there. So we are very happy with our, I won't say tortoise, I won't say hare sort of growth. We're somewhere in the middle. We're walking our pace and not really looking at an exponential growth wherein you don't have visibility on, because these are very, very policy driven projects. Government intervention is required. You can't put too much money behind these with regards to pumping up your company and facing a setback from the government side. So yeah, slow and steady, no investment yet, not even seeking it. And I think we're very comfortable with this. The next step probably where it would be required is when you jump into countries like India, where the scale is so massive that you really can't bootstrap over there and you need to be in multiple places at the same time, is because there's a lot of competition in areas like that. So that would be our next step.
Thank you for sharing these insights, personal experiences as well. I'm gonna jump in questions since we don't have much time. I'm gonna take 3 questions. We have many actually, but I'll only limit it to 3. So the first question goes, where are we standing from Akhil Gupta? Where are we standing as of now in terms of PropTech and what is coming in the way in the future? So I think we covered where we stand today. So maybe in the future, what do you foresee in the next couple of years, or maybe decades or centuries, whatever you feel like sharing?
Target is net zero.
You believe we're gonna get there?
We have to. There is no other way. Otherwise, we'll go extinct.
I mean, definitely. I mean, that should be the driving force. Like, we should aim to achieve net zero. That should be the end goal. And the market should strive towards that. And a few countries have already taken that stride. And definitely, we need to build upon what has been done so far. And that should be the ultimate objective.
Agreed completely. No doubts about that. It's been done. It can be done here as well. There are net zero buildings.
Okay, I guess you're all Biden supporters then. So my next question, from Wanda Lizakowska, she's asking, it's about solar. She's asking, you mentioned about solar panel, there is a cost to their installation. However, the main concern is the maintenance and cost of it during its lifespan. What do you think would need to happen to encourage especially private developers and owners to invest in these? Maybe government initiatives? Very good point.
Well, I think I can answer it very simply. You already have a very attractive payback with the solar panel on your rooftop today. While you may need to clean it more in this region because it's dusty, please also note that this region has 320 sunny days compared to any other place in the world. So the amount of sun that comes in the Middle East is so strong that even if you have a slightly dirty panel over a couple of weeks, you will still get a significant amount of energy. So operations and maintenance of a solar plant is the least probably impedimenting factor in the deployment of solar, is because you take a simple brush and clean the dust off, or you spray it with water, and then you have a good amount of electricity for the next 2-3 weeks. So can be managed easily.
Shyam, any ideas about this?
I think Salim, you could, because I just gave my viewpoint.
Yeah, see, like when we talk about O&M costs, as Shyam mentioned, like that is the least concern, because even if the cleaning cycle is delayed by a few weeks, I mean, that doesn't cause such a great issue in terms of the performance, because we have this benefit of this region which gets a good sunshine. And even if we see in our portfolio, the O&M costs are like, they are not like a showstopper when it talks about adoption of solar PV. So, I mean, it's like a very simple process. And now even you can automate it further with robotic cleaning and also the paybacks and all. So O&M cost is one of the least factors when it comes to that. I mean, the main thing is if you choose the right quality of the right product upfront, then this should not be a concern when it comes to O&M.
There's actually, yeah, sorry.
Panel technology, I've been also following. The panel technology has evolved a lot. now the reduction on the performance because of dust or the aging has been minimized. So exactly, it is negligible, the O&M part now.
All right, Salim, there's actually a question specifically to you. It's about post the pandemic. What kind of impact do you have you seen on the retrofit programs in the UAE?
I mean, post-pandemic, we have different kind of problems. So now the issue, what happens is we need to prove to a client that the saving is because of the EPC contract, not because of the client not operating his facility. So obviously, post-pandemic has posed a different kind of challenge, where the facility operation is itself has impacted. So the client is getting saving because of not operating the facility rather than because of. So yes, it has created some impact, but the other thing is like in the post-pandemic, this also gives you the opportunity to do the retrofit now when you are not operating at your full capacity. So it will not cause any disruption to your building if you do the retrofit now when you are not operating at full or you are partially operating. And then once you go back to normal operation, you can realize those benefits. So yes, it has created some issues, but I mean, it has also led to new like potential where it can be capitalized in terms of making things more efficient.
Okay, great. I'm gonna limit it to these questions, but I would like you all to give your final thoughts, recommendations, advice, one to entrepreneurs and two to people as a society to increase awareness about the hazards we'll be facing if we don't react. Because I think I believe that awareness and knowledge are key for a change before even start adopting any solution. So for entrepreneurs and for the society.
I think I can probably start and end very quickly with this. This is a community wherein I believe a lot of area developers, architects, contractors would be viewing this. What you all do gets set in stone and physical buildings come out of your engineering. And it's very difficult to change these for the next 30, 40, 50 years if you haven't put your mind to it now. Just to give you an example, my apartment building doesn't have a segregated plastic or can or paper recycling chute. So I have to throw down everything and walk 500 meters to recycle my paper. And I'm in 2020 where all of the world is doing it. Had they thought about it 15 years back, the entire community of JLT probably would have had this, and the 70,000 people are living here. So PropTech community and the people watching this, what you do gets set in stone. So really think and rethink, and just don't think only of the ROI. There are other things at stake which you can't put a money value to. And when you realize that, you realize it a little too late.
Thank you,
I mean, definitely. Sorry. Yeah, I think the main thing is we need to come out of that mindset. So that is the main thing, and everyone should think as a collective responsibility in terms of how we can optimize things further. And it's a responsibility of everyone, like as an individual, as a community, I mean, to protect our environment. And we should think beyond commercial aspects. So that should not be the driving force, but unfortunately, it is how things work. But it's everyone's responsibility to make things better. So we should think it from that perspective, and we should try and always do things in a different way, like which should like the trends, the previous trends should be changed and new designs, and wherever it's possible to adopt and improvise, everything should be looked into now to make sure the future becomes more sustainable.
I will take a different approach. I respect and love my colleagues, both Salim and Shiam. By the way, Salim, we need to meet you, me, and Pradeep. I got big things to tell to you, but please excuse me, I will object. Please look into the ROI. Please look into the comments. People say that don't look into ROI. People are getting scared that as if these technologies are very expensive and they are not even looking into it. This sustainability is a fantastic ROI now. 1 year, 2 years, 6 months, 3 years, 5 years. Whatever you put, it is better than investing into Bitcoin or property. I can guarantee you that. So every single dollar that you have, invest it into sustainability and you will make more money. I guarantee you that. This is how Etihad Esco is surviving. This is how Cleanergize is making money. This is how we are making money. So sustainability is not expensive. Please don't close the doors. Listen to us and you will be amazed how much money you can make as the building owner, school owner, hospital owner, community owners. It is amazing, and you don't even need to invest in it. You just let the other people invest and get your money on a monthly basis, regular basis. It is out there. So make some money by sustainability.
I think that's the quote of today, make money by sustainability. I hope we gave a good message to everyone in terms of opportunities and also in terms of sustainability and effect on our life, because we all share this planet and we need to be all find the humanity in us to care, actually, if not for us, for our children, for the next generations, because we're all responsible. Thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you for the experiences shared, for the insights. I hope the guests enjoyed, the audience enjoyed. And if there are any questions, please reach out directly to our speakers. I think they'll be more than happy to respond. And I look forward to meeting you all again sometime soon.
Sure, thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you very much.